It's Friday, February 9th, 2024. Let me start off by thanking, I've heard back from some people on our Nano Love show that they were entertained by it, so I've done my work.
Oh, did they? Good, good.
Yes, people thought it was funny. That's good. I didn't think I would hear anything except for maybe a groaning, you idiot type of thing, so I'm very happy with that. So
you know what? It's kind of like a dad joke. I realize that. My son tells me a lot of dad jokes,
really
and I realize that whole AI show is basically like a big dad joke.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's like I said last time when I talked about it. I had one good, thoughtful joke in the whole 10 minutes, and that was enough for me to be like, nope, that's fine.
Made you happy.
Yep, that was an accomplishment because
Good.
I thought of that late when it was almost done. So that's fine. Let's do our show segment as we always do. Patreon.com/Ozone Nightmare. Go to the show homepage and select from the array of rounded squares on your right for different support options, including Lando's Amazon author page, my link tree with all my art links, and at the bottom you will find a YouTube link where I don't know what version YouTube's going to accept, but with about 16 hours to spare, I finished the 5-hour-long edit of Doug Bielmeyer and myself talking about Solaris and Stalker. That took a while, so you put some time aside for that one, but it is there. I just don't know which version. I have a suspicion that I haven't uploaded them as of this recording yet, but I'm making two versions, one where I just black and white all the footage, and the other that's actually the normal color, because I think it's going to try to block the normal color.
You know what? I have a great idea. Can't you just put whenever you show footage, right? Can't you just put like a cartoon head?
You know what?
On someone's head?
You know what?
Oh, wait.
Could. Yeah.
No, I have a great idea for you.
Sure.
Oh man, you will hate this, but they have these stupid programs that will they'll cartoon a piece of footage.
Oh yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
There's filters in Premiere that I could easily distort the footage with.
If you just make it look like something else, then you could be like, hey, work of art.
I could. But philosophically, that bothers me because if I'm talking about movies where where one of the big things about it is the visuals, and I have to destroy the visuals,
well, you do because of copyright.
But
the world we live in.
I making it black and white doesn't bother me as much because you still see the shots. I don't know either. But the other thing is, I'm actually going back and forth because, like I said, I haven't uploaded it yet. Because the first export was 35 gigs, and rather than upload that to YouTube, I'm doing a first pass compression on it using Handbrake, which is actually running in the background on a different machine, so it won't impact our show.
I was about to say.
No. I mean, I wouldn't run it on the same. I'm running it on my super Photoshop machine, so that'll be pretty quick.
Yes, I'm decoding the Kremlin on in the background. Yeah. I'm sure that won't take up any bandwidth.
I am tempted to upload it in its what I'm calling the color version, and if they block it, I think I'm just going to appeal it. I think I'm going to appeal it and just say, nope, this is me promoting these movies and telling people. I mean, we do say at multiple points where to go watch it. We don't say pirate it. I actually say buy it, support physical media, but we also say where it's streaming.
Yeah, but that would work if you were dealing with real people, and I don't think you are.
So far, the appeals I've filed have all been granted, so I'm just going to keep going. One was
All
one was granted almost immediately. The other was ignored so long that it just automatically grants it. If they don't contest it after 30 days, it just gets accepted.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I may roll the dice on this, because I'll probably upload both versions and see if both get blocked. Because even the black and white might get blocked. I don't know.
Yeah,
If
that's
they
what
both
I'm
do-
saying. You should. The reason, so I'll tell you there's what was the program I use? There's a program that basically all it does is it animates the faces, right?
Sure.
So essentially, what it would do is if let's say you're doing you did Solaris, right?
Yeah.
It would make all the actors' faces look like they were like animated characters.
Well, the thing I
but
have
everything
ready
else
to go,
would still look the same.
the thing
you know?
I have ready to go is to put the laughing man thing over the face.
Oh, that was the other thing I was going to say.
Which is funny, but like I said, I feel like I'm going to keep pushing until they really just say no. And if they really come back and deny it, then I'll put up the alternate version that. But I'm resisting that as long as I can.
I know.
And whatever, the audio version is going to
always-
go up, so it's not going to
Yeah.
matter.
You just can't always get what you want with this stuff. That's the problem.
That's true, but like I said, so far I think because I write, unlike some people who I think appeal and they just say put it back up, and they leave it at that, which not the best way to go about it. I really. I am willing to write out a good paragraph or so saying, here's what we're talking about. We're promoting these films. We're saying where to go watch them. In fact, we promote 2 different streaming services as well as purchasing the media. And at no point do we encourage any type of piracy. We don't say anything as far as there's other ways. We're saying these are movies you should pay. I think I say rent it first before you buy it because I think that's sensible. But, there's nothing in there that I think if it was actually that I have any doubt would be supported as a fair use thing. So I'll try it and we'll see.
Yeah.
And plus because and probably this is part of it. Our channel isn't monetized. I have a feeling if it was, maybe we would get more instant kind of denials. But since it's not, I have a hunch, to be honest, that's 50% of the reason that they let it go is because they look at the channel and say, yeah, it's not
They're
monetized.
like,
They're not making any
look at
money from it.
Look at these assholes. They don't make shit. Yeah.
No. In fact, I don't even put Patreon or anything links in these. I really don't. I put the show homepage link and then somebody could find it from there. But I don't even put any of the show links in there where somebody might even be able to say, well, that's sort of a third option way or, a sideways way of getting money. It's not even in there. It's just the show homepages. So I'll try it. I'll try it. And then, if it worst comes to worst, then I'll laughing man it. But we'll see. But anyway, that's why I was saying about the YouTube link is there is a video I took quite a while on. Yes, managed to get it to just a hair under 5 hours long. So, I mean, the movies are each about 3 hours long.
And those are hilarious too, because Doug kept wondering if you guys were gonna be able to fill any space, and you're like,
oh yeah.
Like, oh no, dude, we'll go for a long.
Yeah,
time.
we already have another double feature planned, which is I believe Near Dark and From Dusk Till Dawn, and then after that one, because he said unusual vampire movies, and I said okay, good, yeah, we can do that. And then after that, I think we're going to do Hong Kong action because I don't think he's ever seen Yes, Madam or Righting Wrongs. So I'm probably going to make him watch some Cynthia Rothrock stuff because I don't think he's seen any. And oh boy, if only I could experience that stuff again for the first time. Wouldn't that be wonderful? But
it is fascinating, isn't it? The media that you experience and that like feeling of having seen it for the first time and and then because I was telling Joe before the show that my son just started playing Overwatch. This is like his first real video game that he wanted to play.
Overwatch 1 or 2? It must be 2, right? One's not available.
No, it's 2.
Anymore.
Yeah, one's not available. But it's basically the same thing. And he and that feeling, that massive elation of like he went through the whole training simulation and all that stuff, and then he was playing the game and he was just so excited, and he was like, oh well, if you guys are gonna do this, can I go back to playing? And we were like, no, dude, you're done with game time here. It's like, relax. And it's like, it's that feeling of, I remember that when you're young, when you're like, you're playing, like I was F-Zero on Super Nintendo.
Yes, I remember
Super
F-Zero.
Nintendo.
Yeah, Super Nintendo. Super Nintendo. That was a launch title.
I was obsessed with F-Zero. I was obsessed with getting the tightest fucking time I could get on that game.
Yeah.
And taking every like corner just right, real OCD with that game. And And I think that maybe my parents did not pull me off of games as much as maybe
Sure.
they should have. But I mean, it's the whole new technology thing. Nobody thought they were going to be as addictive as they were to some degree. You know what I mean?
No,
Plus,
yeah,
they were probably
yeah.
sitting there going, "I don't hear anything from the kids. No trouble. Just still playing that video thing. So we'll just leave them there." You know?
Sure.
But yeah, that feeling of playing a game for the first time and being like, "Whoa!" or like watching a movie, or it's the first time you read a book. What media do you wish you could experience again for the first time? Like if you had like a magic spell that would let you even though you know what you're going to read, just emotionally experience it for the first time.
Oh, that's easy.
Again.
Akira, right off the bat. I so
Movie or the
viscerally
comic
remember-
book?
No, the movie. The movie.
Okay.
No. The movie was because I really had no idea about Japanese anime. I remember this. I remember this crystal clear, like few other things in my memory. I don't
Yeah.
remember a lot of stuff like this. But I remember the exact mall I was in, which was the South Hills Mall in Poughkeepsie, New York. And in the center of the mall, where it was like the big intersection, there was a comic book store on one of those corner things. And I was in there and I just happened to look up at the TV. And it was the scene where Tetsuo is on the throne and his metal arm starts going into the chair. And I was just kind of staring at it because I didn't know what it was.
What the fuck am I watching?
No, and I watched it for about 20 minutes, and then it was actually difficult because you have to remember when the time frame of this. I mean, this was a long time ago before you were streaming all this stuff. I couldn't even find a VHS of it, and it happened to be on. I want to say it was the IFC channel, the Independent Film Channel, because I had IFC in Sundance. My parents had that as part of the package. They never watched it. Oh man,
bitch.
no! I mentioned that in the Tarkovsky thing. I said I was exceptionally lucky that I saw weird stuff.
I thought that I was lucky because I had HBO.
No,
like
IFC.
Just HBO.
I lived on IFC because there were so many weird things I saw on there. But it happened to be on. They did an animation thing at some point. I watched it late.
Way better access than I did in that respect.
Yeah, I was floored by that. I remember that experience but the first time I saw it, I remember that so clearly. I even remember like how I was standing, how the store was oriented, the angle I was looking at that TV.
It was like falling in love.
It was because all I knew was Disney animation, which don't get me wrong, Disney animation, the hand drawn stuff is very good, but it's not detailed like that. I mean, Akira is an exceptional piece of artwork. It stands above much of the rest. Because there's so much effort and detail in that particular film. And to watch that, would I want to see that for the first time again? Yes, absolutely. I would want to be blown away by that because I've never lost the awe. I mean, I still have it. I still watch that movie and I just look at it.
Oh,
and
I know.
Astounded by it. But
see, I think I was more impressed with Ghost in the Shell in that respect. I always liked Akira, but for me, I'll put it to you like this. When I was a kid, the first 15 minutes of Akira, the motorcycle scene through the city, with all the lights and the music and everything like that, that was astounding. That fucking rocked my brain, right? I wanted the rest of the movie to be that. And that's why I went more toward the comic, because the comic has got a lot more of that than the movie. But if we're staying in the realm of movies, I'm not really sure what movie, if we want to, like I said, staying in the realm of movies, if what movie I would wish I had that with.
As far as Ghost in the Shell, the reason that Ghost in the Shell didn't do the same thing is because I was so mired in sci-fi that I don't want to say Ghost in the Shell was familiar, but a lot of it was stuff I had seen or read versions of.
Yes.
Whereas Akira was so alien to me because I actually remember the first time I watched Ghost in the Shell. I have that formative memory as well, but that was more of, wow, this is because again, I'd kind of gotten into the Japanese anime thing. So it was more of, this is really good. This is high quality anime.
I think probably for me, and I think it's probably because I saw it too young, was probably Macross. Because remember for a while they were showing Macross as Robotech.
Yes, absolutely.
In the morning and school. I remember I watched that as a kid, and that blew my mind. The way that they mixed sci-fi and social and ships and battles and space, that blew my mind. But again, it's great that you can point quickly to the thing that you wish you experienced again. I don't know what it is that I wish I could have a fresh,
Well, I could give you a version of every type of media. I know immediately which ones I would want from every slice of everything.
I can't. I mean, like, I'd love to tell you that I'd like to read Neuromancer for the first time.
My pick for a book might surprise you, actually.
Well, but what I was going to say was, but I experienced Neuromancer the way I did because I read it as a young man. And actually, you said you were rereading it, right?
I just I'm in the middle of rereading it right now.
Yeah, and so the thing is, reading it as a man in your mid-40s as opposed to reading it as like a young man, right? It's a different book. Like, the desperation reads differently. Case reads differently.
Yeah. Oh, no. The best part about rereading books, I think, the way I do it is I do it every couple of years because I always have a different kind of – I approach them very differently. I can tell that my reactions to things are different. I think that's the real value in the books that I reread.
The more – so what I like to do is I like to read the book and then I like to do the audiobooks after the fact to just make it easier because that way I can listen to it while I'm doing other things. I have listened to the audiobook for Altered Carbon a couple times. And I know that every time, and there's usually like a gap of years between it, right? Every time I have listened to the Altered Carbon audiobook, Kovacs gets older. And I think it's because I get older and I suddenly, and I start to understand more the idea of what it must be like to be that old. Because they never really tell you how old he is in that first book. Yeah. So the thing is, you always assume that he's, he's in his 30s or he's in his 40s or he's in his, But for all we know, Takashi Kovacs is in his fucking 90s at that point. You know what I mean? For all you know, the degree of time that man has been around as a conscious creature, right? So he always gets older every time I listen to the audiobook, just like the way the character behaves, kind of his exhaustion. But again, no, it's a good question to think about. What would you want to experience again? I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because spoilers don't bother me. So like I don't.
Well, they don't bother me either, but I know the ones that I would want to hit the first time for basically every type of media there is. I can think of the one where, like, I wanted that first, like, it's easy.
Oh, God. You know what movie I wish I could watch again for the first time?
Sure.
And this is going to sound so lame, but this is because I'm an English buff. I so wish I could watch Shakespeare in Love again for the first time and not be jaded. Because when I watched that movie the first time, I wasn't jaded, and I thought that was one of the more beautiful Shakespearean influenced films I had ever seen. Really, like, and you watch it again later on and you're like, it's very clever, it's very well made. But that first time I watched it, I was like, this is so good. This writing is so clever. I wish I could watch that movie again for the first time. Yeah, it's like the wanting to meet your wife again for the first time, isn't it? Like something yeah, it's that kind of emotion where you're like, it'd be great if we could just, this is why people, I suspect this is why people role play. But role play is not the real thing. You're never going to achieve that because there's always a familiarity. But, it's the whole, oh man, I'm trying to think of a movie that did that. People meeting again for the first time. Was it? Oh, you know what? Maybe it was what dreams may come.
Yeah, that's a good example.
Where he says to her, maybe we'll go back to Earth, and they meet again as children or something like that. Anyway, I completely sidetracked us. You were talking about your show with Doug.
No, that was it. But no, the idea that is an interesting thing is the whole experience, because a lot of the stuff we've been watching he's never seen, so he's getting it.
Yeah.
Like, he's never seen Stalker. He'd never seen Solaris. He'd only seen the Clooney Solaris. So
you're getting a really hard reaction, a new reaction.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And what's nice is he's liked all of it because, look, these are not necessarily easy films. John Carpenter, we knew we liked that. So that was easy. We'd seen, it maybe had been a while, but you like that because if you like Carpenter, you like Carpenter. It's easy. Yeah. Whereas, I didn't know if he was going to, I mean, I guess, and I was correct. I knew he would be interested in the musical angle because the music and the score are unusual. So that I knew would interest him from a musician's point of view. Kind of like, even a bad book, if it's written interesting, you would probably be like, oh, the writing is interesting. Even if you didn't necessarily enjoy the story, if it's a different structure, you might be like, oh, that's interesting.
Well, yeah, if you are part of the the trade of
Yes.
that thing, then you
Right.
can appreciate good work.
Right. So if there was an Akira movie that I hated, but it was that well made, I would still go, well, that animation is top notch. Too bad I hate the movie. But I'd still be able to say, well, look, I mean, this is not easy what they're doing. So I knew there was at least something he'd talk about, but I'm like, I don't know,
Yeah.
man. These movies are very vague. They're very long. Not much happens. And, and it just turned out that he really, really enjoyed both of them, which is great. But I didn't know that going in.
Yeah, it's
So,
lucky.
Yeah. So it is that thing where, and that's where I want to kind of, I'm trying to, I almost convinced him, I think, to watch Street Trash. But then when I really told him what it was about, he was like, maybe. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's hardcore garbage. So
let's not break the trust that you have achieved.
Well, hey, I was upfront about what it was. I didn't try to surprise him.
This is kind of a piece of shit film.
Well,
but I
also,
think you might...
he also watches a lot of these films with his sister. So I'm kind of like, I don't want to. It's not like I'm not going to tell him to watch Itchy the Killer and not tell him what it is.
Yeah, don't sour the relationship there. That's awkward.
His family ties. Yeah. So, yeah. Whereas, like Solaris and Stalker, they might bore somebody, but you're not going to be offended by them. Whereas Street Trash has an extended sequence where a cut-off penis is used as a volleyball and it's shown on screen, and that might just rub certain people the wrong way.
Yeah, no, I'd stick to art films.
Yeah.
Honestly, what would be interesting? Would be a good double feature. What was that movie where that guy? Oh God, it was the Chinese where he had to breathe the rice to get. aroused.
You're talking. Oh God. Oh,
is that Killer Number One?
No. It's a 3 title. Starts with B. What is it? Oh God.
Oh, I can't remember. Yeah, and he had the puffy cheeks.
Yes, it's gonna bug me so much because it's the guy.
What was his name?
Jeez, oh my God, I can't believe I'm not thinking of this.
I'm
such an idiot. Oh God. Hold on, it's a Criterion Collection, so I'll find it in 2 seconds.
Of course it is. Yeah.
Tokyo Killer. Oh God, how am I not remembering?
Is it Tokyo Drifter?
Tokyo Drifter is not. I don't think that's the movie you're talking about, but it's the same guy. It's the same person made it. Okay, so Tokyo Drifter is not the movie you're talking about, but it's the same director. So I can find it based on that. So the movie you're Branded to Kill. 3 words starts with Branded to Kill.
Yes, I would totally do Branded to Kill and Less Samurai and Alphaville as like a triple.
Ooh, Alphaville's man. Branded to Kill and Alphaville would be interesting.
And the reason I would put the 3 of those in there, right, is because there is a style. There is a style similarity.
That's not a bad idea, actually.
Between the main character of Alphaville, just visually, there's a style similarity between the main guy in Alphaville, in Branded to Kill, and Le Samurai, but it's handled completely differently.
And I know he has the Criterion Collection. He told me he has that because that's how he watched, I think, Stalker.
And the fascinating thing about them is they're 3 completely different movies.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Radically.
All art films, though. But the main character, there's a similar DNA in all 3 of those that you can kind of track through. So yeah, I mean,
be interesting.
Also, those are 3, I think, kind of like intermediately demanding art films to watch, because Branded to Kill goes on, and you're kind of sitting there at one point going, "Wait a minute." Less Samurai, you get towards the end of that movie and you're like, what's going on? And Alphaville, you're like, what?
Well, I'm looking at the thing because I'm curious. The nice part about this is the funny part about you saying that there's some challenge to it. The thing is, there really isn't, only because
not for you.
Well, no, not even, because don't forget, he just watched for the first time Solaris and Stalker back to back. That's 6 hours of movie.
Oh yeah,
all 3 of these movies are not even that long.
No, but it's not the length of them. It's the way that the directors handle those movies.
It is, but those, don't get me wrong. I think it's a great idea. In fact, I'm going to suggest that very thing. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Because I mean, the Branded to Kill movies are so neat because
those 3 are. That's a great. We're gonna go with those 3. I'm gonna suggest that.
It's like that 70s Yakuza films.
Well, the interesting part is Branded to Kill and Le Samurai are the same year, which is 1967. That's the fascinating part.
Are they?
Yeah,
no.
they're the same year.
Oh, weird. You know, you should find do they do Giallo movies at the same time?
No. Late.
You should,
yes.
Honestly, I would drop Alphaville because the sci-fi element will take it too far. use that for something else. Find a Giallo movie that has a similar main character, personality, kind of like that. And
that's tricky because Giallos really don't fit into that type of mold.
No, I know, but it's the grim, stylish, detective almost character.
Yeah.
Because then you've got a French, an Italian, and a Japanese movie.
That's an interesting
Same year,
idea.
similar main character, like DNA of the main character.
Yeah, the first
you
Giallo
can't find
film,
you can't find a Giallo movie with like a detective character like that.
No, I could. You know what? Actually, I could. Bava's.
It's your area
yeah.
massively more than mine.
You
so
know
it's
what?
like.
Yeah, actually, the Girl Who Knew Too Much might work, and that's 1963, and I believe that is in black and white, so that would fit. It is black and white.
Title.
Yeah. It's a great
Girl
title.
Who Knew Too Much. It's a great title.
Oh, the Giallos have great titles. I mean, they're some of the best titles you could possibly. I mean,
that's so awesome.
Here, I'll give you a couple of great titles. The Sweet Body of Deborah. Let's see. What have they done to our daughters? The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. Blood and Black Lace. I mean, there's so many great titles because a lot of them are Italian titles, and they're made to be extreme. A Suitcase for a Corpse. This is the full title. Forbidden Photos of a Lady Above Suspicion. I mean, these are so good. In the Folds of the Flesh. A Lizard in a Woman's Skin. You know? The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward. That's a weird one.
Oh, man. I saw this really cool piece of art. Somebody turned it was basically a Han Solo and Princess Leia, and they did it as a 70s crime novel cover.
Yeah.
And it was like Han Solo in the background and Leia in the front looking like, the damsel in distress. And it had this title that was like, it was like the prince, I can't even remember now what the title, but it was it was one of those Giallo titles that was so good.
Yeah.
And then it said, and then the subtitle was something like, "She was a princess, but was that enough to save them?" or something like that. I can't remember what it was. Yeah.
The Devil Has
love
Seven
shit like
Faces.
that.
The Short Night of the Glass Dolls. This is one of the best of all time. Your vice is a locked room, and only I have the key.
That's a long one.
but is that not? I mean, once you hear that title, you never forget that one. That's one of those.
No, not at all. Yeah.
5 Women for the Killer.
There's
what have you done to your daughters? Yeah, I mean, if you just go through this list, these are you could see that you could almost imagine the book covers for all these. The Suspicious Death of a Minor.
Yes.
Watch Me When I Kill. That's great.
You have to find one that has that kind of character. Then.
Yeah. Atrocious Tales of Love and Death.
I wish I could find that cover.
A Blade in the Dark. Oh, we should do a Blade in the Dark.
That's a good one.
That's
a good
83.
one.
That's a great title. The New York Ripper. Kids, don't watch that with women. Do not watch that one. That's the one with the bottle where he cuts the girl from crotch to nose.
Oh,
You don't
want
to watch that one with anybody that isn't going to be able to.
You care about, yes.
Yeah, it's not.
Watch it with somebody you love. Yeah.
Somebody, no, not with somebody you love. Somebody that loves you, because they're going to have to put up with some shit for you. So you can love them, but they better love you back, or you're not making it to the. You're not going to make it to the end of a film with graphic sexual violence on top of a killer who talks like Donald Duck.
Well, that's like watching. Oh God, was it Irreversible?
Oh, yeah.
Don't watch. That's a movie that you shouldn't
Itchy the
watch.
Killer.
No, I'll take Itchy the Killer over Irreversible any day.
Oh man, that's
no. And here's my reason, right?
Yeah.
If I sat down to watch, if I had to pick one of those to watch with my wife and I can laugh our asses off at Itchy the Killer and its absurdity.
Okay,
right?
I don't think a lot of couples will do that.
But Irreversible is not a movie you can crack jokes about.
No, but I don't think Itchy the Killer always is either.
But you know what? Here's an interesting historical fact for you that I didn't know. So in ancient Greece, because I'm reading a biography of the philosopher Diogenes right now. Accidentally, I thought that it was actually just a book about his philosophical beliefs, but it's actually been a really clever book about his trying to place the philosopher in history, and the guy does a lot of really interesting stuff where he cross sections the periods in history. So where they have this philosopher and they say, well, he may have been here at this time. This is what we know about this period of history in this area from these other different historical documents that we have, which is cool. you get a lot of weird tidbits of data in there that I didn't know. And one of them was that if you were a Greek man, especially in Athens, who slept with another man's wife and got caught, right? So it wasn't like you did it with, the blessing of the husband or something like that. You slept with another man's wife and you got caught. You were basically, you had a wide turnip put up your ass as punishment. And then they would make fun of you by referring to you as being wide-assed and send you on your way.
Okay.
Now, the records are a bit spotty as to whether they put it up your ass the one time or you are actually, sodomized with it. The pages of history. But I was like, wow, that's an interesting punishment. And then the fact that after that, everyone refers to you as being, there's a Greek word for it, but they refer to you as being wide-assed.
Sure.
I just thought that was very funny. The weird little, the richness of history.
Is it called like the Greek turnip punishment?
No, hold on. I'll find it for you.
What is it actually called? Oh, there it is. Wow, I found it.
Good.
It's called Raphanidosis. Raphanidosis is the act of inserting the root of a plant of the genus Raphanus into the anus.
There it is.
That sounds like it rhymes.
Yeah, it is mentioned by Aristophanes as a punishment for adultery in classical Athens in the 5th and 4th century BC. Look, guys, you learned something.
Let me tell you something. The fact that my 3-word search got exactly to it, which is unusual, means that is now the show title. Greek turnip punishment. Greek turnip punishment is now the I will link to that.
For just a brief millisecond, I was like, what? The title's going to be Raphanidosis? And I'm like, no, it's not. Of course it's not.
Well, no, I mean, I thought about it, but it's better to, it's funnier because you don't know some people might know, somebody might know exactly what that means. They might be, maybe like you, they're a student of history and they go, oh, I know what he's talking about. And so it's a little treat for those people. And for everybody else, it's what is Greek turnip punishment, and they won't know until they get to a certain point. But it has its own wiki page, which I applaud. That's how I knew what it was. So yes,
it's very funny that it has
now
that,
is that a proper word when it's called that, where I have to capitalize or not?
Yeah, it's capitalized wherever I've seen it. It is a title of a thing, but
okay.
Unless you know how to conjugate an ancient Greek word, which I don't, because it's Latin.
Let's see. Oh, this is part of history's most bizarre, brutal, and absolutely barmy punishments. That's gotta hurt. Radishes and mullets. Oh boy, let's see. Oh yeah, it is capital R. There we go. Yep.
There you go. Yeah.
Wow.
It's a radish.
You left out a part. Before
What's
the radish was inserted, the guilty man would also have all the hair from his nether regions removed with hot ash.
No, that wasn't in the book.
Oh, boy. Well, that's part of it, according to this. The Romans did something similar, but used a gray mullet, the fish, not the hairstyle instead. Oh.
They give you a Brazilian with a rusty fish?
Yeah, that's it. Oh, God.
Yeah. Nature. History. History is full of all sorts of fascinating little... Because I will say this about this book I'm reading. There's a lot... I know a lot about Greek history, but I know these wars and the philosophers and when one city rose and one city fell and things like that. But it's the day-to-day shit that is most fascinating to me, because it's those little tidbits of that get you close to this concept of what life may have actually been like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And this idea that somebody, that a threat to adultery was actually getting sodomized by a
turnip or a fish.
Yeah.
Okay.
So next time at Thanksgiving, when you see them bring out the turnips, well, this is an interesting little piece of historical.
Say, has somebody done something they shouldn't have?
Oh man.
Well, this is no kind of segue from any of that, but on a lark, really, more than anything, my wife and I decided to watch for no particular reason. We had a kind of a gap in the shows that we were watching, and I thought, you know what? I've read good things about this Echo series, the Marvel show.
Really?
I said, let's.
I heard nothing about it.
Okay.
So
Well, my wife didn't even know it
existed.
existed. But
Okay.
I had read some good reviews. And now there is one. Hold on, I have to verify one thing, because if this is actually what this is a complete and utter lie. So I want to look at this. Here we go. Okay, yeah, this is a lie. So I had read that Marvel was, well, I'm not saying that this is the lie part. I'll get to the specific thing. But I had read that Marvel was now going to start identifying the shows where you don't have to have watched anything else. And they call it Marvel Spotlight. That's why I was checking the name. And the whole idea is, okay, you know what? If you haven't seen 18 movies, if you just want to start a show and not have to know anything, you can now do that. And I thought, that's great. That's something that was the other reason I was interested in this one. Because
really? Can you? Because, I mean, that feels like it leans pretty heavily on Hawkeye.
Well, yeah, it's a big-ass lie, because this is a Spotlight show. But now, and in the first episode, they blaze through what I assume is like a greatest hits of Hawkeye as far as where this character comes from. We did not watch Hawkeye. We're not going to watch Hawkeye. I have no interest.
You're not going to enjoy Hawkeye.
I didn't think I would. So, yeah, there's a bunch in here where my wife was like, why did that happen? And I said, well, I'm guessing this, and I was right, because, you kind of know with comic books how things work. So I guessed it correct, and I double-checked.
Well, it helps. It helps that she has a guide.
Yes, but somebody coming into this really with no knowledge would probably... Now, it doesn't matter, really, because it's a very short bit, and honestly, is it really important? The only important bit, spoiler warning, I guess, is why is she shooting Kingpin in the face? Like, you don't know why that's happening, because they do a lot of time jumping. And that's the only part where Hawkeye would explain that, because at the very end of Hawkeye, Kingpin escapes, and then you hear a gunshot, and that's what the beginning of this show is, where she shoots him and blows his eye out. And so that would confuse, I think.
So is this an eye patch to
oh, no, he gets a cyber eye in 5 seconds. So now he's got a cybernetic eye. Oh, no, come on. They weren't going to take his eye out. I mean, he is wearing a bandage, and it looks cool for a while, but then he takes it off, and he's got a cyber eye. So, of course he does.
Does it shoot lasers? Tell me it shoots lasers.
No, but it glows green at times, and it can do stuff. Like it translate. It can interpret things. They're kind of vague on it, but I'm sure they'll.
So he got like an Iron Man eye.
Yeah, but it looks like a perfectly normal eye. It just glows a couple of times, and that tells you, and then you see his vision of it. But anyway, so that's the only part of that where it's like, well, if you don't know anything about this, you're not going to know why Hawkeye killed her father. Or why she thinks Hawkeye killed her father, and then he takes his mask off, and anyway, it doesn't matter. But that Spotlight thing, at least in this series, bit of bullshit. You might want to just do a summary read of Hawkeye and understand where the character comes from, or you might be confused.
Or, you know what? I'm going to tell you right now. If you want to watch a show that has some kind of background, do what I did for Star Trek when we watched Discovery, right? We went and found somebody who had basically produced a summary of important events for season 1 of Discovery. We watched it, and honestly, that was like watching an episode of TV in itself, because it took like 20 minutes to watch the whole thing. And it gave us everything we needed to know, and we took off running. And that is essentially what we do now. If there's a show that's got any kind of backstory, but we want to watch it, we're like, fuck it, let's watch the summary, and let's get on our way. Life is too short to get hung up.
I instantly found what is described. It's got the top 4-minute read of what to know before watching Echo on time.com. So there you go. So that's it. Whatever. Honestly, you won't care. It doesn't actually matter.
You
really,
won't even care.
No, well, because it's not really important. The show is excellent. Number one, it's excellent. So that the beginning part, do you really need to know why she shot him in the face? No, because they almost explained it during the series.
Then switch the review here, because I'm actually quite curious.
Okay, so now the only thing that I do also think is going to probably annoy some people, but I knew this going in. I didn't tell my wife this, but I already knew. Daredevil shows up for one scene, and it's great because they fight, and it's really this. My wife and I were both like, deaf hero versus blind hero. This is fantastic because they have different abilities. So it's
he should. Didn't she kick his ass in the comic?
She held her own. In fact, that's what Kingpin says. He says, "You are the only person in my organization who has lasted this long against him." And that's where he then prioritizes her as his top assassin.
Oh, and this is in the backflashes.
Well, that's the other thing is they don't identify the years, but it has to be during the Netflix time because, she shoots him at the end of Hawkeye. So this is, and he's in the fully red suit. He doesn't have the red and yellow. So it's obviously in the kind of Netflix Daredevil time from what I could tell.
Oh, I love that. They're going back into Netflix time.
Well, they're bringing that. You heard they're bringing that all back. Foggy's coming back. Karen's coming back. They've reversed course completely. And now even Iron Fist, they're saying they're going to bring that back with Colleen as the lead, as the Iron Fist. Oh, yeah. They've realized they fucked up royally by trying to make it Disney-fied. Nobody likes it. So now they have wrenched the car into reverse so hard that the fucking shifter has flown out of the goddamn roof. So, yes, that's all being reversed. They're going back to the Netflix stuff because, they were on the fence about even Charlie Cox was, we might recast it. Fuck that. It's all done. They're bringing all the actors back. Bullseye's coming back, the same guy who did it in the Netflix. It's all coming back because they know they had a good thing.
I actually really liked Charlie Cox in She-Hulk, the one episode he had. He was quite funny.
No, I think they realized after that people really like the people who were in these shows, and I think this idea was, I don't know if it was right stuff where they didn't want to pay Netflix. Who knows? This is probably tied up in bullshit money.
Yeah.
But anyway, like I said, the gang's coming back. So whether it'll still be the same magic, hard to say. Who knows who's running these shows? We'll see. But the Echo is set up. It feels very different than a lot of the Marvel shows in a lot of ways. It does some of the same stuff. It has the same basic approach in a lot of ways, but it also does some really interestingly different things. But the ending is what seals it as among the best Marvel things I've seen in modern. Because all of it is, the gist of it is, she realizes that Kingpin was manipulating her and all this stuff, and then she finds out that, very similar to Black Panther, or the Doctor character from Authority of all things, this is the first thing I thought of, is all of her ancestors exist within her at the same time. So she is the latest in a line of, I don't think they give her a specific name.
Was it always like that in the comics?
I never read her in the comics. I don't know. I don't care. So no clue. But basically you find out that, way back in Native American history.
So she's the Native American Black Panther.
Yes. So each successive female warrior has a different ability that each one then inherits as it goes along. So the first one saved all of her people. Then the next one was basically an expert markswoman. Then the next one, what was the third one? The third one was very ferocious and like unyielding. And then her mother was a healer. Her mother could bring things back to life. And so all of those abilities, they get awakened in her. She doesn't know about them for a while. And then there's this point where she keeps having these flashbacks and seeing different women in different times. And the show kind of messes around with formatting, which is nice, kind of WandaVision style, where there's one that's like an old black and white movie with all the words are in cards, and it's showing one of the one warrior, because she was a, what do they call her, light horseman, or were the Native American kind of indigenous police or whatever. And so they do some neat formatting stuff. Plus the fact that she's deaf is great, because there's a lot of sign, and there's like an automatic. This is one thing that they never do enough with. This is one of those things that every time I remember this idea, I wonder why nobody does more with this. Or maybe some people do, and if so, please let us know, because I'm interested. Is sign language is such a perfect stealth communication system for people. They're always trying to, talk secretly and whisper. Just do sign language. There's no noise involved.
The problem is it's an entirely other language you got to learn.
Well, guess what? If you want to be good at stealth, learn something.
Yeah.
In fact, the whole thing about learning sign is one of the big payoffs once we get to the end of the series. Because the series is good. All the way through, the series is good, and it feels very small scale, which is great. It's not world stakes. But basically, Echo wants to become the new Kingpin. She says something along the lines of, there was a king for too long. I've knocked him off. It's time for a queen. And she's trying to become a criminal, like master empire runner.
So she's not trying to be good. Got it.
No. In fact, the town, when she comes back, they want her to leave because they're all like, you are going to bring New York problems here, and we don't want it. They all want her to leave. And she's like, I don't care. This place is a prime kind of connector in his arms dealing or whatever, and I have to strike him here. And everybody wants her out. And she's like, fuck it. I'm going to do whatever I got to do. And then there's a point where she realizes that because Kingpin keeps telling her, you and I are very much the same. You and I are similar people. And you realize that he is right up to a point, because they were both, their anger is what is ruling them. Their anger over loss, or, in Kingpin's case, it was his mother being beaten by his father. In her case, it was her father getting killed by, she thinks, Hawkeye. And then, of course, Kingpin, she finds out. And so there is a part where it does seem very, very possible that she is going to then go back with him, because he shows up in the town and he says, you come back with me and I will give you an empire. All you have to do is come back with me. And of course, what he wants her to do is re-swear his loyalty to her, because he does. And as far as you can tell, this is legitimately real. This is the great way they've written Kingpin.
He has a strong affection for her.
He has these streaks of, no, I'm being honest. I actually do care about you, but I care about you from a warped perspective. It's not because he's, mustache twirling evil. It's because he is a broken person, and this is how he thinks of the world.
Is this complex characters?
Oh yeah, and wait
to actually be
okay.
complex writing of characters as real people.
My wife said the same thing. She's like, he is so good as Kingpin. I'm like, he really is.
He's
this is one of the reasons I want to watch it. He is.
He was fantastic in Daredevil. He was one of the best things about Daredevil.
He has been consistently. He is a Loki level embodiment of the character, where it's like, this is it. They've got it. They've managed to maintain it, and they got the right person doing it. They got all the things in place. And so far, as far as we can tell, they have not fucked it up, which is amazing. So we get all the way to the end.
Fuck it up. Got it.
So we get to the end, and he basically takes Echo's grandmother, and there's this great stuff about loss, and because the grandmother basically turned her back on Echo because she said, you don't understand the connection between a mother and a daughter. When your mother died, I couldn't look at you because you remind me too much of her, and I couldn't have you here because it was too much for me. It's a really terrible scene, but it makes sense. Like, you get what is being said here. But they don't just resolve it in one conversation either. It's not like it's, okay, well, let's hug it out and we're good. No. It's rocky for a long way. But they take the grandmother hostage, and they take her best friend, who was her cousin, hostage. And so Kingpin's got the two of them. And there's this great thing where Kingpin at one point gives her a contact that can interface with his cyber eye. And so when he talks, it signs for him. These virtual arms come up and they sign for him. And you don't really think much of it, because it's, it makes sense. Okay, he's got this tech and he's had this thing developed, and he gives it to her and it's signing for him. And there's a point later where he's talking about how much he cares about her, and she says, how much could you care about me? You couldn't even be bothered to learn sign language. You had to take a cheap way out. And I was like, oh, that's fucking great. That's a clever cut right there. Yeah, how much could you really care if you couldn't learn to speak in the language that I know? You took the cheap way out, the technological shortcut. So anyway, he's got them hostage, and at this point, he realizes she's not coming back, and of course, because this is how he is, he completely loses his mind, and he's like, fine. He says something about, she's talking about how these two are my actual family and you only ever pretended and you just wanted to use me. He's like, well, I'm glad you told me that, because now I know how much it's going to hurt you when I kill the two of them. And at that point, she kind of manages to or she gets warped out. She suddenly blinks out for a minute. And, or she goes back, sorry, it was right before this, before the five other women show up, or the four other women. She goes back to her house when she's trying to figure out where the grandmother and the cousin are. And she walks in, and her mother's standing there. Her mother, who's dead. The mother dies when she's very young. And she's like, what is this? And the mother then explains to her the whole lineage thing about how every woman who's come before, they're all part of her. She's part of this long line because her roots go back to the original, I guess, Native American goddess. I don't know if it's real or not. I didn't look any of this up, so I have no idea if this is. It's probably rooted in actuality.
It's the MCU, so
yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And so then she explains that the mother says, and the power I had was the ability to heal. And she says, I'm going to heal you. Your problem is that you haven't let go of all this anger, and I'm telling you can. And then she puts her hands on her, and they glow. And she's like, let it go, because I'm always with you. And they're always with you. You're never alone. You kept thinking you were alone, and nobody cared.
I need my pain.
Well, this is the interesting bit about what this series is saying, is that you don't need, well, not that you can't have any pain, but that it shouldn't be everything that you are. And so that's the thing, that she's not saying don't ever have pain. She's saying that you are letting this pain be everything. And you've made it convince you
don't let it
that nobody cares. Yeah, that it's overwhelmed everything. And so then there's the part where they're in there and the 5 women show up. And so through her, she's able to give some of their power to her grandmother and the cousin, who are then able to beat up all the people. And at that point, I'm like, okay, so I can see where this is going. This is going to become her versus Kingpin.
That idea. That's a little wonky. But go on.
I went, okay, this is kind of the Marvel thing, and this has been a common criticism, is it ends with just people beating each other up. So the reason they're doing that is because they have to knock out all the henchmen so that it ends up just being her versus Kingpin, right? That's the idea.
Yeah.
So sure enough, everybody else gets knocked out, and he runs at her to do his kind of, I'm just going to bash you with my arms thing, at which point she walks forward and does the healing symbol and puts it on his heart. And suddenly they teleport into his childhood.
Oh, no.
Where you hear the father. Well, this is the thing. You hear the mother being beaten by the father. And he's screaming and he's crying. And he goes to grab the hammer that he beat him to death with. Because he carries it around with him. He says, this is what I carry to remind me of what made me. He's got it with him at one point. And he shows it to her. And he actually says to her, now you can free yourself from me by killing me with the same hammer I killed my father. And he gives her the hammer. And he puts his head forward. And she won't do it. But then at the end of this thing, so she says, no, this doesn't have to be everything. And then she puts her hands on his head and says, I'm going to take away this rage of yours. You can let this go. And he's resisting, but then you see this glow and it like blows up. And then it comes back into the present. And he's there's something wrong with him. He's like, what did you do to me? What did you do to me? And they haul him into the car and they drive off. And that's the end of the series. So I don't know what she did to him, but I went, this is like Doctor Strange doing the time shit.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious now. Like, what happens to?
I was astounded because it appears she did at least partially do something to him where he's not like he was before.
Yeah,
and he's not happy about it.
Which
I guess makes sense.
Oh man, yeah.
But yeah, it was the ending was so unusual that it made the whole series. It overcame any problems, which there weren't a ton to begin with. Actually,
because they actually did something that was a little different.
That seems to possibly. I mean, I'm assuming because they never really show him completely. I have to assume that what happened is that she changed him but didn't completely heal him. Because otherwise Kingpin's over with, and they're not going to do that.
And they won't do that.
So I think it's going to be more of. I wonder if it's going to be is him hiding the fact that he's not as brutal as he used to be. I don't know. I'm legitimately curious where they go with the character now.
Or if he goes looking for someone to give it back to him. Like, wouldn't that be fucked up to find someone to basically restore your pain?
Well, wait a minute, because there's an obvious direction for that, which is his wife. Because she had said, you do whatever you want. Remember the woman from the Daredevil series?
Yeah.
She had said, kind of Black Adam style, where she's like, no, you're doing the right thing. You want to run everything, just don't lie to me about it. But I'm in with you. Let's run this city the way it should be run. So I don't know, but it did something.
It will be interesting to see where they try to go with it.
What is fascinating about it is it came up with a surprising way to have a final confrontation in a way that could, depending on what they do, could have long-lasting ramifications. And I honestly was completely blindsided by it. In a million years, I would never have guessed she'll try to heal his pain. Never would have guessed that. Just would not have even thought about it. And the fact that that's what they did, and it works because it makes sense with the whole themes of the series. Like, it all makes sense. It doesn't come out of nowhere. I'm just so used to the Marvel formula that when they deviate, it actually surprises me. So I didn't even read anything about the series as far as the story or anything, because I was like, well, I kind of know what it's going to be. But, supposedly the characters are good, so whatever. And I like Kingpin, so who cares? And so I was legitimately kind of, what? She's trying to make him into a better person and not just beat the shit out of him? This is different. And so And my wife loved it too. She thought it was great. And she didn't know anything about the character, nothing. She didn't even know the series existed, which I guess a lot of people don't, which is weird because I've read really good reviews of it. But
yeah, they really didn't push this one.
Oddly, because this is the first one of their Spotlight series, so I don't understand why. And it's not long. It's 5 episodes. It's only 3.5 hours long. It's not even a long.
It's a long movie.
It's a long movie, and I think it works really well.
Interesting.
But you haven't heard of it, right? You knew nothing about it.
Oh, I'd heard of it. I had just heard nothing about it, the story itself. I watched what's the Hawkeye show? Right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and she was an okay character in the show. It was fascinating that they brought I was more fascinated that they brought Kingpin through her, but I was also never a big fan of the character in the comics. So when they were like, "Oh, she's getting her own series," I was like, "Well, you know what? I'm not going to read that book. That's not a book that I need to read." You know what I mean? Like it was.
Yeah.
So no, I wasn't even looking for it.
No. Well, I would really recommend it. I was very impressed with it because mostly because of the ending, but also there's a lot of good people in it. Faces you'll recognize. D'Onofrio is great. I mean, that's the thing. You know he's good, so
good.
You don't even have to worry about him. The lead is really good. I like the way that they, I like the fact that she's deaf. There's a lot of the sign stuff in there, so I guess if you have a problem with subtitles, you're going to have a problem with this. But, there's the familiar beats are kind of there, but there's also, like I said, the way the characters, it doesn't end up with, it does end up with everybody kind of back in communication with each other, but it doesn't take the easy route to get there. I guess that's the way it doesn't. Like I said, it's not like they sit down, say, "Oh, I was wrong. Yep, I was wrong too. Let's hug." And now everything's fixed. I love
you. You love me. We're happy.
It's more of there are problems that are going to take some work to fix.
Family is messy.
And so, like I said, I've generally checked out of most Marvel stuff. This type of thing, if I read more stuff that says it's like Echo, I'll be interested in it. This is legitimately the most I've liked anything since Loki season 1. As far as this is good. I would actually probably say it's better than Loki season 1 because Loki season 1 largely did what I expected it to.
Yes, in that respect, yes. But I actually really fucking enjoyed Loki because Loki is my kind of weird.
Oh, no. I love the show, but I was not surprised by the show.
No,
I really wasn't.
No, I wasn't. Yeah,
I knew it was Kang. Like it was roadmapped so heavily what was happening. So there weren't a lot of surprises in it. Was it fun? Yeah, it was really fun. I love time travel shenanigans. And I liked everybody in it. The design was amazing. I mean,
that's what I mean. I love the time travel shenanigans.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's Dr. Loki. That's fine.
It is.
But this. Oh,
you know what? Now that you bring that up. So I just started watching what's her name? Clara's gone. She's finally left Capaldi, which I had talked to you about how the actual leaving of Clara was interesting because they turned Capaldi into almost like a villain of a Time Lord, right?
Yeah.
But I just started the new season with the woman who plays Bill. So I'm 1 episode in. I gotta tell you, it is a completely different show. I would actually tell you, skip all the Clara shit, and if you want to watch some decent Capaldi, watch the first few episodes. Or at least just watch the first episode of the Bill season, right, where Bill is the companion. It's so different than all the other shit that they did. I mean, for one, it's a doctor who's been stationary for a while now. He hasn't been traveling. He has oh god, that British is he albino? He's not albino. He has alopecia. He's like a heavy set, pale, bald comedian.
I think I know who you mean. I don't know the name.
Yeah, but he's basically he's a head with a robotic body, and he's the doctor's companion. And they've been hiding out at a school for some reason, guarding something. And when the doctor notices that he's lecturing essentially at the school, and when he notices this girl Bill is watching his lectures, but she's not a student, he gets interested in her and decides, you know what, I'm going to tutor her because she wants to go to the school, but she can't. So he starts essentially teaching her, and in the process, she gets tied up in his world. And then when she realizes that there's more to his world, she wants to see the universe. And he's not for it. But because it's one of these, it's interesting because Clara has been erased from the Doctor's mind. So she's no longer a thing. So what's fascinating is that the portrait on the Doctor's desk is not Clara, but it's River Song. And and this is the Doctor that loses her, right? Because there is a special where essentially he is the one that spends the last night with her at the Singing Towers, and he's the one that gives her the sonic screwdriver, and he's the one that spends 22 years with her, because a night on Darillion is 22 years long. So when she leaves and dies, this is the Doctor who spent the most time with River Song. So he's quite crushed from the loss of her. So it's interesting the way the dynamic of this version of Capaldi, where he's different because they've removed all the Clara shit from his head. So it's a very different version. It's like the best parts of the Capaldi Doctor without all the Clara stuff that really like muddled the waters for him. And there's none of this kind of weird affection. Like, he's got a proper companion again. Someone that he wants to educate, someone that he wants to show around. And he also has, I think his name is Nardo, is the heavyset comedian character. And he's quite good because he basically slags off the Doctor. Like, he's been with him long enough. He's not impressed by him. So, like it's actually quite, it feels more Douglas Adams is the only way I guess I can really describe it. I don't know if it can maintain it, but I would suggest that if you like the Capaldi Doctor, give the first few episodes of the Bill season a try, because it's way more fun than the Clara shit by miles. And I only thought about that because we were talking about Dr. Loki. Dr. Loki.
It's very much a Doctor Who type show, but yeah, Echo was good. I liked it.
Excellent. I'm happy that it was good. I always like when there's good TV, Like,
well,
I'm never rooting against shows at this point.
No,
I want them all to be good.
I've said many times I have so little interest in it at the moment, and so it was good to see something that did something really different, where I went, okay, they when the good people get involved, they're still going to make good stuff, and I will not rule it out just because it says Marvel. I just have to hear the right words in association with it, and it paid off. So that's a positive sign to me.
And they basically said
differently a little bit.
Vincent D'Onofrio, and you're like, okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah, well, and I read really good reviews that said, hey, this is not the standard. Like I said, they didn't give away the ending, but they had said that this is more character driven. It's smaller, and I went, okay, that's kind of what I want. And yeah, even though the Spotlight thing was, I think, a little bit misleading, it very quickly gets past it, so it was fine.
A bit bullshit, yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit of a lie up front, but it does succeed without the necessity of it. So in that way, yeah, it's just that some people might be a little lost, but I don't think it really matters once you get far. Once you get who everybody is quickly enough, and it really doesn't matter. All you have to know is the Kingpin screwed her over. Do you need the details? No, not really. And so it doesn't matter. So then, okay. Now I'm going to do these in reverse order that I watched them, because I'm going to talk about the less impressive one first, because I'd rather end on a movie that I actually was more impressed than I expected to be with. So the first one I'm going to talk about is a movie from 1990 called Phoenix the Warrior. Or it's also known as, what was the other title? I saw the other title. It was like Werewolves.
Dick Force 5.
No. It's got a great alternate title.
What's it called? Go ahead.
The regular title is Phoenix the Warrior, but what was the other title? I just saw it. It was, oh jeez, I gotta find it, because it's a
She-Wolves of the Wasteland.
That's it. She-Wolves of the Wasteland. Yeah. Okay. So both of the movies that I'm going to be talking about tonight are considered rip-off films, but this one is a rip-off.
Hold on 1 second.
Yes.
What was that movie with the oh god, it was the woman, she was like a Tarzan type woman.
Oh,
Do you remember that movie?
Geez, what is that? Yes, I know what movie you're talking about.
And the guy and the reporter that they bury up to the neck.
Yeah. Oh God,
that
what was that movie?
Because that's not the same actor who plays the vice president in West Wing, is it?
Oh no. There's nobody in this went on to do much of anything else. No,
Okay.
It's not. No. Most of that the guy in this movie did like 5 movies and then was gone. That was it. He never did anything else.
Phoenix the Warrior. All right, go on.
Phoenix the Warrior. So this is 95% Mad Max, really 2, or Thunderdome, depending. Because there's a little bit of, it's about 50-50 of each movie in here. Because Thunderdome
I wonder how they find so much hairspray in the apocalypse.
I'll tell you something. Yeah. So here's the thing. This movie appealed to me on paper because big hair I like. It's all women except for the one guy and one young child. And, it's a garbagey film. So I thought, okay, if nothing else, this movie will appeal on the superficial level. But honestly, this movie has one thing that saves it from being completely forgettable. It is mostly forgettable. I actually did start to fall asleep a couple times, which is a bad sign because normally I can stay awake even through.
That's always good. Yeah.
It's not a good sign. It starts off very strongly, sort of, in that it starts with action. But I mean, this is a no-budget film. Reportedly, the lead actress was paid $50 to be in it. And I don't really doubt that that's true. I don't know that for a fact, but it makes sense. So this is the setup, which is voiceover, that opens the film to describe what we're about to see, which I actually forgot what the reasoning was behind this, and it doesn't always make sense with what we're told, but this is what we get as an opening.
Doesn't make it any better, got it.
It doesn't, but here is the movie's premise for you. And a little bit of great music at the end, which I have to admit, the music in this movie is pretty fun. So here we go.
Disarmament was almost complete when the bacteriological wars began. The plagues that followed slowly killed all of the men, and only a handful of females survived. One rose to dominate the world. Using her dark power, she began to breed a new race of women, and those who opposed her were hunted down like animals.
Yeah, so we have Street Fighter music to launch this thing off, which is awesome.
So you basically found a movie for synth music.
Okay, the music is great, and the hairstyles are great. But when I said this movie's 95% Mad Max, the other 5% is, of all things, Lynch's Dune, because the main villain is a mutated-looking woman in all black who's called the Reverend Mother, and she has some kind of psychic powers. It doesn't make any
interesting.
It makes no sense in the construct of the rest of the film. It's never well explained. There's no reason why this character should be in this movie. But the other funny part is there are Fury Road elements to this movie, because what you find out is the Reverend Mother is essentially keeping the last men alive as breeders. She's using them to try to generate a male child that she will somehow absorb to become superpowered. They never really explain what that means. She keeps talking about it. I think we'll hear at one point, maybe. I don't remember if I have any audio with her. But they never really say what the whole point of her absorbing children is. But apparently it's very tough to get male children for some reason. And so we cut from this opening where we see this woman getting hunted down with Street Fighter music to a very, very, very threadbare shanty town, which is mostly just metal corrugated sheet metal on pieces of wood. And there's women all over the place with big poofy hair and machine guns, and they're all looking tough. And then you see this very skinny little woman come in, and for some reason they immediately start chasing her. I don't know why, because they don't know she's pregnant yet, but they start chasing her. I guess maybe they just go after any women who could be of childbearing age. They never really say. But then she is defended by another big-haired blonde woman who's bustier, who has basically an auto shotgun, who is Phoenix the Warrior. And Phoenix, for some reason, decides to take on half the town and get her out, maybe because she just doesn't like people picking on women. And she says, "Why are they after you?" And she says, I can't tell you right now. I'll tell you if you get me out of here. And she's like, okay, fine. And she gets her out of there. Again, why she cares so much?
That's a terrible response. Because then later on, she's like, I stole all their drugs.
Yeah, it makes no sense. A lot of stuff in here just makes no sense. So she manages to get her out. And so she's finally like, okay, I got you out. Now, why are they chasing you? And we get this explanation.
All right, Keela. I told you I'd get you to safety, and now you're safe. Why are they after you?
The breeders devised a plan to free us from the Reverend Mother's breeding control. And they took a seed, a male seed, and I carry it now.
What do you mean?
I'm with child. A male child.
If what you say is true, then we are in great danger. There's a place I know where we can hide.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man,
okay. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I think that this may be some of the worst acting you have ever brought me. I mean, you've brought some bad ones before.
No, this is pretty
bad.
bad.
This one. In fact, I will specifically say when that woman is talking about the male, she's with child, that is the worst acting.
It's pretty bad.
She's so bad she doesn't even sound human.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. So then we get
your Italian AI sounded more alive than that.
It does, right. So she says, oh, okay, I understand why you're in danger. She said, as you heard in the clip, we're going to go hide somewhere. For some reason, the place she has to go hide takes them through a waterfall where numerous nude women are bathing for some reason, which we all know what the actual reason is, but there's no story explanation for it.
They always have to go through the waterfall of naked women. You know that.
Of course. And then we suddenly get a massive time jump where these women are basically, I guess, I feel like, again, it's like a Fury Road prequel where it's the women in the green or whatever.
It feels like they really missed out on a lot of lesbian scenes here.
I actually thought at several points that was not to use a pun coming, but it never did. So
and I will say this, the fact that they didn't go that way, I'm a little impressed.
Well,
because
I have a hunch.
That feels like the natural progression.
I have a hunch that I know the lead actress refused to be nude because of how little she was being paid. So I'm wondering if that might have been a factor. I don't know.
You can't pay someone $50 and go, okay, take your clothes off and
So there may be several factors involved on why it never went that way. I don't know. So then we get a time jump.
Too cheap for sex scenes. Wow.
Too cheap for sex. Yeah. It tells you something. So we jump to, she has the child. The child's a male child. And then we get this scene where right before the birth scene, the Reverend Mother, who is in a chamber, which I'm not kidding, is probably a small warehouse where they just hung plastic wrap as tarps. There is no scene decoration. If you were to watch this, it is so threadbare that it does become comical at points.
No, it makes total sense to me. It's too cheap for sex.
It is. And so we get this. Yeah. This is the explanation, as much as we ever get one, on why the Reverend Mother needs a male heir. I did pull this clip. I just saw because it's called The Child's Power, so that's got to be what it is. So this is where the lead attack woman, who is the same actress as Star Trek The Motion Picture, she played the woman who got taken over by V'ger. Remember the bald woman? I don't remember what her name was.
She went on to do that.
She went on to do this afterwards, yes. Which that's actually kind of, I look at it and go, she can act better than this movie. But you know what? Everybody's got to eat. So she shows up and you'll hear her accent. So that's the Star Trek woman. Okay. And she's talking to the Reverend Mother about why, I'm sorry the child got away. And the Reverend Mother talks about why she needs the child. So here we get as much of an explanation as you ever get in the movie.
Reverend Mother, she has escaped. I don't know where. But I swear I will find them. And when I catch Keela and that trapper, I will tear them apart. There, Cobalt. Relax. Come here, child.
Also, the music in the background kind of sounds like the TARDIS materializing for some reason. You'll hear it.
Yeah.
Do not fear, my child. We shall find them. The seed the killer carries is special. Special? Yes. The child that grows from it will feel my power like no male has before. From the instant of his birth, we will be as one.
That be as one thing never happens. Never happens. The kid's born. There's no psychic connection. There's no nothing. So that's...
Does she not have any powers? Is it all just bullshit from the
No,
start?
she doesn't. No, she does have powers. You see her having powers. She does. She can compel people to do things. She, it's some kind of psychic thing. It feels like a Bene Gesserit. That's what she feels like, is a $5 Bene Gesserit witch. I mean, that's why I say it's so...
Man, the descriptors for this movie. Let's add them up now. She's a $5 Bene Gesserit witch. It's too cheap for sex. What else shall we add to that?
Tarp caves.
Yeah, tarp caves.
Yeah, you know what? Painting tarp, like the clear plastic you put down for painting. It's painting tarp caves. It's so. It really is awful.
Man,
like I said.
So I'm just kind of curious. Was this like the vision of the director? He just really wanted to make this movie. Was this like a student fun film? Like, is there any information as to?
Perhaps
why?
Predictably, there is very little information on how this movie was made. I can't find really. It was a non-guild movie, a non-union film, so that the lead actress got in trouble for making it for $50. It's like there's all this stuff around it, which I think they've just erased it from memory. I don't know. But anyway, now we get to the point where suddenly we jump ahead in time. The child's born, and for a while they're hanging out for I think 5 or 6 years with this female warrior group, and the kid grows up. And then Phoenix finally says, okay, you know what? I'm going to go out and do some hunting for a while, because that's what I did before I ran into you. I was a hunter. I would go out and I would hunt something that she doesn't say what, but she was a hunter, a trapper, or whatever. So we get this. There's going to be more of your favorite actress here, but not only the acting, but listen.
So not only do they have the worst actress you've ever brought to it,
but they also have
but then they continue to use her.
Oh, yes. And, just wait till the clip after this, let me tell you. But in this one,
God.
Not only how bad the acting is, but listen to what this mother says, who has a young child not 10 feet away from her. Essentially, her firstborn, her only born, her child, her biological child, is playing not 10 feet from them when this clip, I'll just play it.
I don't feel right about you leaving now.
Kila, I will only be hunting for a few days. Besides, we're low on supplies.
Phoenix, please be careful. You're the only family I have.
Not anymore. Take care of Skylar while I'm gone. I'll see you soon, Kila.
Be careful.
Okay.
So Phoenix has to tell her, no, you have a son. I'm not your only family. We're not family at all, really. I mean, it's the whole, we've been together thing, but she has to tell her. Phoenix sounds more like the mother of the child than the mother of the child, which was an astonishing scene to behold. I mean, it was just... So, not 20 minutes after Phoenix leaves the camp, all the bad guys, assailants come in and they kill all the women, and they're trying to get, I guess her name's Keela. I didn't even look up what the actual name is. I'll say Gila Monster. They try to get Gila and her kid, Gila and Skylar, and Phoenix manages to get them and escape with them, and they start running away, and they're stuck in the desert for a while, and they're kind of low on everything, and then they happen to find what they think is some kind of abandoned structure that they want to hide in because they hear the Reverend Mother's bandits are around or whatever. So they hide in this structure, and then they are surprised by a gas mask wearing figure comes in and starts to try to kind of throw them out. And you could tell instantly that it's a man, but they don't know that at first. And so they manage to subdue the intruder. And then we have what is some of the most beautiful dialogue ever committed to film in regards to how women of the wasteland view a grown man. I am going to play this and just everybody enjoy it.
Okay, are we watching a porno?
No, sadly not.
I think it's a man. It sure is. You know what this means? We have the last men on Earth. And this one is fully grown.
A man? I've never seen a man.
What?
Well, how did you... The breeders gave him to me.
Oh. Okay, whatever you say. I'm real tempted to...
To what?
You know. Well, never mind.
Oh. What's wrong?
Shit. I think I broke it.
Broke what? Oh.
The only man in the wasteland, I broke him.
Damn!
There's nothing more useless than a man who doesn't work.
What the fuck are you doing in my hut?
Your hut?
I built it. I've been hiding here for years.
Hey, I'm walking
Where
here.
the hell did you come from, you broken piece of shit?
Easy, honey. I'm no good to you dead.
You're no good to me alive, and I'm not your honey.
Whatever you say.
Where did you come from?
I escaped from the Reverend Mother's seed tanks.
That's impossible. The Reverend Mother killed the last remaining males years ago.
You believe me, don't you?
We can't trust him, Keela. Besides, we have to protect the child.
Child.
Yes, Skylar.
A boy child? No shit. I never thought I'd ever see a kid again, let alone a boy.
You're gonna take that secret to the grave.
Yeah, so this guy has fallen in from a Bill and Ted movie.
Okay.
Where he's like, hey, what
No,
the fuck,
yeah,
ladies? What's up?
Yeah, I mean, God
Yeah,
damn.
yeah, it's like I said, there were parts where I was falling asleep, but then parts like this, I was laughing. I mean, it is a movie that you do have to just start laughing at because it's so inept.
They find the most like Italian kind of Guido guy in the wild.
Oh, and he looks like it too. I mean, he looks
He's
at
like,
he's wearing jeans
"Hey!"
and like a wife beater, where the rest of them are in Mad Max gear, and this guy shows up looking like he's out of like he walked off a construction site in the 90s.
Hold on. Is
Look him up.
his hair greased back?
No, he's got a receding hairline and a porno mustache. I mean, he's the total package. Let me tell you something. This is one of these people that at the time, it's
Ladies, gentlemen, this is the total package.
yeah, this is Desperation Alley has delivered this guy to these women because there's no other way a guy like this is going to mac with these people the way he is. So it's just not going to happen. So then we get, the what do you call it? The assassins show up. They manage to get Skylar and Gila, the monster, out of through a tunnel. But the guy and Phoenix are captured. They throw him into a gladiator pit. That goes on for a while, where it's a bunch of women in really weird outfits beating on each other. They manage to get out, and then they hook back up with Gila Monster and Skylar. And then we get to the thing that this movie.
How old is Skylar at this point?
I don't know, 6, 7,
Okay,
something. He's
so
young,
little
pretty
kid.
young.
Got it.
Little kid. Then we get to what is legitimately something that is so amazing. And I mean, not joking amazing. It is so out of a different movie and yet so great that I didn't recognize what was happening at first. It took a while for me to key in because, this is now over an hour into a hour and 20 something minute film. So I kind of resigned myself to this movie has no ideas that are its own. And I don't know whether this is probably ripped off from something too, but I wasn't expecting it. So it functions as something innovative and clever. So they're going through what they describe as, I don't remember what the mutants' names are, but some kind of graveyard for some kind of race of mutants in the wasteland. And it's extremely dangerous. So they're going through and there's all these really terrible Spirit Halloween skeletons one is in a fucking lazy boy. I'm not kidding you. It's a plastic skeleton with a robe in a recliner that is reclined. And the thing is, that makes sense then because some of them are alive and they get captured. And they were holding a book and they were reading from it. And I didn't quite catch what the book was, because this isn't a high definition film. I watched this in basically like 480 or whatever it is on YouTube. And once I started hearing them saying things, I went, wait a minute. And I kind of backed it up, and I could just make out that the book they're reading from is the TV guide. This is a race of mutants who have based their religion on television. And they take it to the absurdist extreme, because this is a part where they have Phoenix and Gila Monster on, like, crucified, and they're getting ready to execute them to the gods of the airwaves. And I'm going to play this because now it's distorted, so it is difficult to hear, but they're literally reading show titles as prayers, as hymns. And it is so fantastic that it saves the movie for me anyway. Now, I'm just going to play this because this is amazing.
5 p.m. Cisco and Everett at the movies. Chefs. Run away with the rich and famous. Leave it to Beaver.
Was the ancients whose souls traveled the airways from telebox to telebox, who released the cleansing fire from which the Razul were born. A shard from the holiest glass of the screen.
Elton John and Dee, Little House on the Prairie, the Dick Van Dyke Show, the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Sesame Street.
I release your soul to the airways.
Honestly, when he says Sesame Street, I lost my fucking mind. I was laughing for about 5 minutes.
You know, it's almost like...
It's almost a parody. It's a joke almost.
Yeah, it's just so strange.
It's so weird. And that is the one thing about the movie. There's nothing even more to talk about after that. Yeah, they defeat the whatever, and the Phoenix rides on a horse.
Yeah,
who
cares?
Who cares?
Yeah.
But that TV people, that's the name of the clip too, TV people. That part is so from a different film and so funny, legitimately funny. Because, again, I didn't get it at first. Because their voices are so modulated, I didn't really understand what they were saying, and I didn't really see the book clearly. But then the recliner makes sense, and all the dead TVs around, all the graveyards suddenly made sense to me, because essentially they put their dead in front of broken TVs and recliners as a way for them to have, like, eternal life the way they lived or something. It almost is clever. It is enough that I was actually glad I watched it.
You're sitting there going, this belongs in a different movie.
This belongs in a better film. It was astonishing. And that's the only, and again, that may have been entirely ripped off from somewhere. So somebody, feel free to let us know. I'm not saying it's original. But it was the most original thing in this film. By far. And for me, it saved the movie. I really could not recommend this to anybody else, except for that. Unless you are one of two things, and I said this in my short review, I'll say the same thing here. If you are a post-apocalypse completionist, sure, watch it. You can find it everywhere for free.
If you're blind, why not?
Sure. Or if... what was the other reason? It was that? No, I think that was it. I said, I guess if you're into so bad it's good that you just want to laugh at how shoddy it is, yeah, it's very shoddy. But that's it. I mean, this is not one I can mine enough to really even recommend as a one-time for most people. The clips kind of tell you what you're in for. The TV people thing, it is great, but you could go watch it on YouTube and get that. But that's it. So this is, I usually try to scrape quality out of even movies that don't deserve it. But this one, the only thing I can really say is good about it.
It did not disturb it or deserve it.
No, the TV people thing is the only really clever thing, if in fact it's even original, and I don't know if it is. That's it. So now, but I wanted to play the clips because they're funny. especially the TV people one, because Sesame Street. Like I'm gonna keep that clip somewhere because that's just too good. But then, well, actually before this, and this is what got me thinking, oh, maybe this movie will be better than its reputation. Unfortunately, it wasn't. But this movie, the one I'm going to talk about now, is better than, it's generally described as a Friday the 13th ripoff. Goes by 2 titles, technically 3, but the third title they never really used, I don't think. But the 2 titles are either Death Dorm or The Dorm That Dripped Blood. It's about a 50-50 on which one resolves for you. This is from 1982. So this is only a couple of years after Friday the 13th.
Also known as Pranks.
Yeah, the Pranks, I don't think it ever actually got released with, I think in the UK it was called that, but then they outlawed it on the Video Nasty list, even though it really is not that gory. Not really. That was a overreaction thing anyway. So this is a movie that follows, it is a slasher film.
This feels very formulaic.
Well, it is until it isn't. And there are things it does that are different because it is both formulaic and also goes against what you would expect of a movie from this time doing this stuff. So the basic setup is you're introduced to a bunch of college students. There's the main group of them. It'll end up being 4 people for the majority of the film. But the character names that you're going to be centered on are Joanne, Craig, Brian, and Patty. Oh, and Debbie is in there for a second, but she dies pretty quickly. But also at the very beginning, we have Joanne's boyfriend, whose name is Tim. You're going to hear him in the first clip, and then he's not in the rest of the movie. But basically, they're working at a college, and the college is going to basically demolish the existing campus and put in new buildings. And so they've hired a group of students to kind of empty out the buildings, get the stuff they're emptying out sold, and get the buildings ready to be demoed. And so this intro part is where you hear discussion. Now, the thing to pay attention here is you're going to hear Joanne's boyfriend mention that there's a guy named Brian who's going to be helping out with this work. And I think this is the movie gets a little sloppy at times with kind of what's going on. But as far as I can tell, I think this was meant to infer that either Brian has a thing for Joanne, or that Joanne and him had a past, or that there's some reason that he specifically mentions this guy. But let me play this clip that explains kind of the basic premise of the film and what's going on.
Today I put snow tires on my Jeep, so we're going to be in good shape.
All right, you know what? I was talking to my dad. He was up there last week. They drove up in a Cadillac. There's no trouble with the roads. There's a great snow.
Thanks, honey.
Everything's totally cool. Hey, it's too bad you're not going with us.
Yeah, it is too bad.
So they're going to tear this place down, huh?
That's right.
What are they going to do with Dayton Hall?
They're going to turn that into apartments, but it's going to take them a while to renovate it. That building's been here for 75 years.
If they're going to tear that place down, what are you going to be doing here for the next 2 weeks?
Oh, God, you should see my inventory list. We have to clear out 300 beds, tons of kitchen equipment and food, hundreds of desks.
And then they've got to sell it all.
I sure hope you have some help.
Oh, there'll be 4 or 5 of us here.
Isn't it going to be a little lonely?
Not for Joanne. You see, Ryan Fraser is going to be around here.
Oh, sounds like fun.
So there's that little specific thing about Brian Fraser.
You know what?
Here. Yeah,
that is a most amazing acting by comparison to the last movie,
isn't it? And the funny part is the Joanne woman sounds like she's 45, even though she's not. She has a much older sounding voice than she is. But yes, in comparison to Phoenix, this is Marlon Brando level stuff. Yeah, absolutely. So that's your basic setup is, okay, these kids are going to stay behind and they're going to be emptying out this building and nobody else is going to be there. So of course, perfect setup for a slasher film. So initially it's 5 of them, the 4 I mentioned, and then a very young Debbie Zuniga, I think is her name, who most people would know as Princess Vespa from Spaceballs. This has got to be her first role because she looks like she's 10. But I recognized her right away. I'm like, I know that woman's face. And that's who it is. It's Princess Vespa. She is actually the first person and her family that are killed. So she ends up, she was going to help them. And then she gets a phone call from her parents, and they're like, no, we want you to come with us. We're going to go, somewhere. And she's like, oh, okay. And she goes and tells Joanne and says, hey, I can only stay for a day and help you the first day, and then I got to leave. So, in that first day, we see like a creeping point of view angle where somebody's creeping around, but nothing happens. And then the next day, the next night, really, Princess Vespa says, okay, I got to go. My parents are here. And her parents are sitting in the car waiting for her. And just before she leaves, Joanne says, I got to go get that inventory. Where did you put it? And she says, I put it in the basement. And Joanne says, okay, I'll go get it. And she's like, no, I can get it before I go. I hate that I have to leave on you, so let me go help you. So goes down to the basement. And what I, of course, expected was, okay, she's going to be the first one that dies in the basement. But instead, what we see is that her parents get killed. Her dad is beaten to death with a spiked baseball bat, and her mother is choked with or garroted with some kind of piano wire. And basically, the killer then waits in the car until Princess Vespa comes down and knocks her out and then drags her under the car and runs her over a bunch of times, which is pretty great because, I mean, yeah.
That's something. Okay.
It is unusually brutal. So maybe the brutality of what he does is what got this thing put on the list, because it's not really gory per se. But the fact that the innocent parents and this young girl gets run over a bunch of times, and then he just kind of drives the car off somewhere and hides it so nobody knows, and they think she just left, so nobody knows about the bodies, right? So then we get a long stretch where they're kind of cleaning things out, and then one of so now it's 2 guys, 2 girls, and there is a maintenance guy on site that works for the school, and there's this guy that comes by a couple of times who kind of scavenges for parts, and he's like, I'll buy some of the stuff from you that you're cleaning out. And I didn't really get what his character was about till the very end. I didn't know why he was, what his point was, because they don't even try to set him up as a red herring. So I wasn't getting what was going on with him, but we'll get to him later. So one of the girls is out and she's getting something, and she notices this weird looking guy. And by weird looking, because it's the 70s, it's a tall guy with really frizzy red hair. That's enough to be a weird guy who's digging through the trash. And she gets scared and comes in to tell Joanne about it. And that's this clip here.
Are we the only ones that are supposed to be here?
Yeah, why?
Well, I just saw that weird-looking guy with the fuzzy hair.
Who?
The real quiet guy that's always creeping around here.
You mean John Hammett?
That guy's a real freak. I wonder what he's doing around here.
I just saw him dumping his trash.
Yeah, I thought no one was supposed to be here but us.
Yeah, you're right. I guess someone's going to have to talk to him.
Yeah, someone sure will, boss.
So, number one, he wasn't throwing out his trash. He was digging through the trash, so she's automatically not the greatest eyewitness in the world. But then we get a long stretch where they see this guy around, and they're kind of freaked out by him, and they try to chase him a couple times, but nobody's getting killed. So I'm kind of, at this point, I think for a lot of people who complain about this is one of the things that they don't like, is there's a long stretch where the main characters are really not under threat.
Yeah, they just keep doing stuff.
Yeah, they're just doing stuff, and they keep seeing this guy, and he's kind of freaking him out, but he doesn't really seem to do anything. And then we see that the maintenance guy gets killed. We don't see who kills him, but the maintenance guy gets his head drilled. And that's actually a pretty great sequence because the special effect is pretty good. But then there's a night where they are getting ready to have dinner, and they, I don't remember why they have to leave. The table is set up, and one of the girls sets down a piece of bread and goes to get the rest of them to eat dinner. And we see a hand kind of come into frame and takes the bread. And then we see the rest of them getting ready to come downstairs. And then we see, the next thing is, then we see somebody with a baseball bat that is smashing up the table and, just destroying the place. And so then they all show up and they see everything's destroyed. And this is kind of the last straw for Joanne, that's who the one guy Craig was referring to as the boss. And so she's like, okay, I've had it. And so we get this little bit where they call the cops.
Is one of you Joanne Murray?
Yes, I am.
I have a report here of a prowler.
Yes, that's right. There are 4 of us here closing this place, and we've been having some problems with someone.
It's this really creepy guy has been hanging around here, and he's not supposed to be here.
Has he hurt anyone? Threatened anyone?
No. Look, we were upstairs, we come down here, and he's thrown our food all over the dining room.
Did anyone see him do this?
No, but we know it was him. I wanted to call the other day, but...
What's this man's name?
John Hammett.
Can you give me a description of him?
He's about 6'2", light, frizzy hair.
Is he about your age?
No, a little older.
Well, this sounds pretty close to a description of a fellow we just picked up not far from here.
Oh, I hope it's him.
If you find out if it's him, will you give us a call and let us know?
Oh, sure. Well, we'll call you back in a couple hours regardless. In the meantime, why don't you just go about your business, and if you have any more problems, just give us a call.
Yes, thanks for coming out.
Well, good night.
Feel better now?
I'll feel better when I find out if it's him they have.
Now, of course, as we'll find out as the movie goes on, that it's not the guy that they have because we keep seeing this guy around. And so I thought, okay, I can see kind of where this is going, is that the cops are going to think they've got him, and then they're going to show up later, and by then, you know, it'll be a chase scene or something like that. So at this point, that scene is about 50 minutes into this movie, and all four of these main characters are still alive. So again, this is unusual for a movie like this. In a normal slasher, you have
you're actually starting to have like plot and romance material and people like character development. You're actually having a non-horror movie inside the horror movie.
Yes, and so and to your point about the character development, what we start to get is that, you know, Craig. So there's the four of them. It's Joanne, Debbie, Craig, and Brian. Debbie is very nervous. She's the one who's like, I wanted to call earlier, but Joanne is very steady and kind of, no, you know, that she doesn't want to just run to the police initially. She's like, I don't know that he's really trying to do anything. So let's just, you know, let's not jump to conclusions. Debbie is frantic and very, very fragile and is scared by a lot of things. Craig is kind of the wise ass who's like, well, hey, Debbie, if you're worried, you can come stay in my room and I'll keep you safe during the night. And Brian seems to be, and this is where I think they were, and maybe they just didn't do it properly. I think what they were trying to set up was that Brian was the counterpoint to Joanne, where he's a pretty big guy, but he's very kind of steady, because there's a point where Craig's like, we need to go get that guy. And he's like, whoa, wait. We can't just go beat somebody up. You got to, you know, we don't really know what's going on. So I felt like what they were trying to do was establish that Brian and Joanne were probably going to be the two that end up at the end because they're the most steady. You know, or something like that. That's what it felt like they were trying to establish. Again, with the Brian character, that he's the one that strangely seems to get the least that we really know about him. It's all kind of his demeanor and the way that he's, you know, not saying let's run off and do something. But anyway, at this point, we're an hour in, and I'm sitting there going, okay, this movie is 90 minutes. There's four characters. Somebody's got to die.
Where's the killer? Yeah.
Right. And he has killed, like I said, he's killed the girl and her parents. He killed the maintenance guy. And, you know, and the only other thing we've seen is smashing up the table, which is clearly the guy, because he's using the same baseball bat he used on the father. So it is that guy. We know that's the person who smashed the table because the weapon gives it away. So then there's a point where the power and the phones get cut. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Now something has to happen at this point. So basically Joanne says, all right, we're going to split up into two teams.
How close are we to the end?
We're at the hour mark when the power goes out. So we have about 25 to 28 minutes left, right? Because you have to include credits. So let's say 26. So I'm like, okay, they split into two groups. And I'm like, okay, we're already starting to separate people. I can see where it's going. I'm reading the map. I know where we're going here. So Debbie and Craig go to the kitchen because that's where the breakers are. And Brian and Joanne are trying to find the John Hemmett guy because, you know, the cops haven't come back and nobody's called. So I think they saw him. I'm pretty sure they did see him again. So they know that the cops don't have him. So Debbie and Craig go down to the kitchen. And Debbie's freaking out. And Craig says, all right, stay right here in the middle of the kitchen. I'm going to go over to the breakers. And you tell me when you see the lights come on. You know, and so he starts flipping breakers. And like certain lights come on, but not the main ones. And then you suddenly hear a noise and you hear him fall down. And so now it's Debbie. And Debbie's losing her mind. And she gets grabbed from behind. And the killer takes her, starts up a giant steam cooker, and throws her in it and seals her in it to boil her to death. Which
that's a really big steam cooker. How big is it?
It's a college, you know, it's like an industry, you know, so it is a big kitchen.
Okay.
So then at this point, so Craig comes to, and Brian goes off somewhere, you don't see where he is. So Craig comes to and goes up and finds Joanne, and Joanne says, "Where's Debbie?" And I don't remember, did Brian get killed? I'm trying to remember if we see how Brian gets killed. Because I know he gets slashed on a stairway. That's right. He's going up the stairs because he told Joanne, go back to the room, call the cops if you can. I'm going to try to get the phone lines working or something like that. And so Joanne's up in the room. She locks the door. Brian is going, and he gets slashed up, I guess. I'm trying to remember. I think he just gets slashed up and like knocked down the stairs or something. you don't really see everything that happens to him from what I remember. You see him later, but not then. And so Craig shows up and he's like, somebody knocked me out. Where's Patty? And she says, isn't Patty with you? And he says, no, I told her to come back. I thought she ran back up here with you. And so now it's Joanne and Craig. We've seen Brian die. We've seen Debbie die. So we know that's just the two of them, but they don't know that. So they still think they're somewhere around looking for the guy. So Joanne's like, okay, well, we can't just stay in here. We have to go and see if we can find somebody to help us, or find Brian or find Debbie. So they're looking around, and they get attacked by John Hammett, the frizzy-haired guy. They get separated. Joanne runs down a hallway and shuts herself in a room, and Hammett, I'm just going to call him Frizzy Hair comes to the door and basically starts to tell her to open the door, and this is what he's saying.
Open the door. You've got to trust me. I came here to find you, to take you away from here. I'm sorry I took the bread. I just took it. Please. Don't make any noise. Just open the door.
So at this point, I now immediately...
I mean, the creepy music doesn't help him.
No, but at this point, I'm like, he's not the killer. Because this is he's way too over the top. Like the stuff he's saying it's all meant to make you think he's the killer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's initially I wrote him off anyway, just because he just seemed too obvious.
Yeah.
Right. So she manages to get the drop on him. She cuts him with a machete, and she manages to escape from him. And she finds Craig, and the two of them are hiding. And this Hammett guy, frizzy hair, is running around, and he's trying to find them. And he keeps saying, "Just come out, just come out!" Like he's acting like a lunatic. So I'm like, okay, I know it's not him. So is it Craig, or is there somebody else? Because the thing about slashers is, they always have some kind of twist ending. Like there's always something. There's always a big reveal. So it's either Craig, or I'm thinking back to the fact that we haven't seen the boyfriend who made the comment. Remember the initial thing where he's like, well, Brian's going to be there. And I'm like, oh, did the boyfriend never leave? Is the boyfriend skulking around to see if he's going to cheat, or she's going to cheat on him? Because that's a typical thing. So at this point, I'm like, it's Craig or it's Tim. I think his name was Tim. And that is another typical thing where a character is at the very beginning. It's far more common in the Italian films, but hey, these are all ripoffs of each other, so whatever. But Italian movies have this big thing about show you a character at the beginning, character disappears for an hour, and then shows up at the end and is the actual one doing it all for some weird reason. But in this case, they had laid out that whole little comment about Brian at the beginning. And I paid attention to that because it's specific. It's just a weird line to have in there at the beginning.
Honestly, it's classic writing. If there's a gun on the mantle in the first scene, it's got to go off by the end.
Chekhov's serial killer, exactly. So, all right, so Hammett corners them. They get the drop on him, and they manage to. Craig tries to attack him. He gets Craig down. He's about to kill him. Joanne grabs a baseball bat and hits him in the head and kills him. At which point, Greg grabs her hand and runs and says, you got him, let's go. And so they run, and they're going down the hallway. They come around the corner. He says, okay, are you all right? Did he get you? Did he do anything? And she's like, no, I'm okay. At which point, Craig then says this.
Hello, darling. I'm not going to hurt you. I love you. I'm not going to hurt you like all the others. The others. You want to see the others, huh? Well, you've already seen Brian. I forgot upstairs. You think I didn't notice what's going on between the two of you? Huh? You want to see Patty? You want to see Patty? Huh? You want to see your dinky little friend? She was always clinging on to everybody, especially you. That's why I had to get rid of her. I had to get her out of the way. You want to know how I fooled everybody? Huh? You want to know? In the dark, in the kitchen, Patty and I went down there to fix all the lights. Well, I pretended that somebody hit me on the head. You see? It was painful, but it was worth it. It was especially worth it to have you hold me like that and make me feel better, huh? And then Hammett came in, and he saw everything. He saw me in there with Patty, and he was going to tell you. He's been trying to tell you the whole time. But then you killed him for me. You killed him for me. Don't you see how funny that is? Hey, you want to see Debbie? You want to see Debbie? Come on. Although you may have trouble recognizing her. Her family's in there, too. I had to get rid of them also, so that we could be alone, so that we could be together. Huh? Come here.
So the problem here is...
So hold on. Is he supposed to have been her boyfriend the whole time?
No. See, this is the thing I think they screwed up.
Okay.
In that opening line, Tim, the actual boyfriend, should have said, "Oh, you're going to be here with that guy, Craig. I think he's got the hots for you." Or something because this kind of comes out of nowhere. There is a thing where Craig at one point says, I didn't get the clip of it because it would just be one short clip, but he says something like, yeah, everybody just thinks I'm the funny guy, but I'm, he says something along the lines of everybody just sees me as a wise ass. Nobody actually, gets to know me or something like that. But it's very short and it's not, they don't establish enough where this is coming from. If Tim had said Craig and not Brian, this would make more sense.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem with it. Well, it is. Yeah. If Brian had been the killer, it would make way more sense. The fact that Craig is, I think the reason they did that was to make it, surprise, but it doesn't play well because it wasn't established enough. We never see, because Craig is always kind of making comments to Debbie, not Joanne or Patty. I don't know, whatever one is the other one who died in the steamer. If he had been making comments with Joanne the whole time, then even there you'd be like, oh, there's something, like he was seeing if he could get a way in or whatever. So that's the thing that's really fumbled about the movie. I like the fact that this movie went so long without having just everybody getting killed off because you do get to know everybody. The problem is they didn't establish Craig well enough. It's the one real criticism I have for the movie. But I also like the fact that it didn't just give into the convention of let's just kill somebody every 10 minutes. So if this had been done better, it would have been a better reveal. Regardless, I was surprised because it was bungled and I expected it to be Tim. I thought it was going to be the boyfriend. That would have made sense as well. So, I can't paper over the fact that this wasn't really well done. But, I mean, it does function as a surprise because I
was surprised,
Yeah. So Joanne manages to escape from him, and she gets into a room and locks herself in, and the guy who had come around buying junk happens to be there trying to get more stuff out of the dumpster because he knows they're clearing out the building, so he's trying to get some stuff for free. And he looks down and he sees Joanne, and she starts yelling, help me, this guy's trying to kill me. So he busts in, and he manages to grab Craig, and they start beating the shit out of each other. And he manages to get Craig down on the ground, and he's getting ready to either kill him or just knock him out, at which point the cops show up because they tried to call and couldn't get a hold of anybody, or they were just coming back to check on them. It's never really clear. And so they burst in, and what they see is Craig on the ground and this guy over him looking like that he's going to kill him. And so this is how this goes. And the voice, you're going to hear at one point somebody say you're a dead man, and that's Craig. But I think the first person the guy who says, hey, this guy's a maniac, that's the garbage guy. Because the voices are different, but it might be a little confusing. So when you hear the guy saying, he's the killer, that's the garbage guy.
Freeze! Don't you move 1 inch, buddy. I'll blow your brains clean out of this county.
It's about time you guys got here. Get this guy away from me. He's a maniac. He's a killer. He's trying to kill me. He's killed all my friends. The bodies are in the compartments.
You can talk later. For now, just hold real still and nobody's going to get hurt. Now turn around real slow.
I'm telling you, he's the guy.
Listen, pal. I'm going to count to 3, and you better shut up and just turn around as slow as you can. 1.
You're a dead
2.
man. Do you hear me? You are dead.
3. Turn around.
So when he says you're dead, that's Craig, and he's got a knife, and the cops can't see it. So he kind of lunges a little bit. The guy goes to grab him, and the cops shoot the wrong guy, and they kill him. And so Craig is basically, he's like, oh, you saved me. Thank you. You saved me. And the cops are like, that's all right. He's like, stay here. There's going to be an ambulance coming for you. And we're going to take this guy out of here. I mean, he's dead anyway. So what's the point? So they leave, at which point Craig runs and finds Joanne and manages to knock her out and says, hey, I'm sorry about this, but because the cops are here, I have to get rid of you because otherwise you're going to tell them who I am. And so he carries her into the incinerator room, opens the incinerator, throws her in, seals the door, and then we cut to the outside of the building where you see the incinerator smoke coming out, and there are a couple of cops, and this is what they say.
I'll be up at the 6th floor.
Right. Control, this is Unit 55.
Go ahead, 55.
Roger, we're going to need the coroner up here tonight. It looks like a multiple homicide. Somebody had a big night. But we got him. He'll never cause anybody trouble again. Roger, 10-4.
Everything set?
Yeah.
Gosh, that thing stinks. Is it supposed to smoke that way?
Well, it doesn't matter. They'll be tearing this place down anyway.
And the movie ends, and Craig got away with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Got away with it. Holy shit.
Yeah. A lot of people are like, wow, it's such a downer ending. I'm like, that's a great ending because he got away with it. Yeah, so she's dead.
That. Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying is there's a lot of stuff the movie does that isn't that great, but to me, the ending saves it because it's brutal. Yes, Craig gets away with it. As far as we know, he's never going to get caught because there's no evidence and they think they shot the guy who did it. And there's no, I mean, obviously in a modern day, they probably would figure it out from DNA and other forensics, but and in 82, this guy would have gotten away with it because they had a perfectly good explanation. They think they shot the guy and there's nothing to conflict with what they saw.
Yeah.
So
that's fucked up.
Yeah, isn't it? But that's what I mean is to just say it's a Friday the 13th ripoff, I think that's unfair. I think this movie is better than that. I'm not saying that it's a perfectly made movie, but I'm really impressed with how it handled the stuff it did. I actually thought that was really good. So I would recommend that one to anybody who's a slasher fan because it does that long space where nobody dies, the way that they kind of handle the characters and the ending, that all makes it stand out. It's not just a ripoff. I don't think that's a fair statement because, yeah, it has a twist ending just like Friday the 13th, but Friday the 13th operates as a standard slasher. It's just people getting killed and killed and killed and killed and killed. And then the surprise, it's the mother and not Jason. That's the real twist of it. But, you know, the girl wins in the end, except for the kind of thing where he comes out of the water, but you're not really aware of whether that's a dream or not. You know, that might be real, that might not be. But this one, this is all reality. And the girl who you thought was going to get away gets thrown into an incinerator, having never woken up from getting knocked out by the killer, who then gets away with it. And the cops are basically like, hey, we got him. And that's how the movie ends. So I really liked it because it did enough different.
Yeah, congratulations. That is fucked up.
I thought so. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's not a happy everybody wins movie, but it, like I said, I like when movies do just enough different.
They can't all be happy they win movies. I mean,
no. And the brutality of him just saying sorry, and he like kisses her on the forehead and then throws her in the incinerator, like it makes sense. He can't have a witness, so you get why he did it. But yeah, the ending in that case saves the whole movie from any of my problems with it because it's cutthroat. And like I said, that's why I would not just describe it as a rip-off film. It is a slasher. It does a lot of things slashers do, but it also does a lot of things differently than what slashers do. So I would recommend it to people who haven't seen it. If you've seen, because a lot of reviews are just like, it's just another Friday the 13th. No, it's not. That's not fair. It is better than that. I'm not going to tell you its logic is foolproof. I think the killer reveal could have been done better, but I don't really care because, man, that ending is something. So, again, it's either Death Dorm or Dorm that Drip Blood, 1982. Phoenix the Warrior is much harder to recommend, but this movie, to anybody who's a slasher fan, if you've never seen it, I would actually recommend it. I think it's better than its reputation would suggest. So, and that's it. That is the end of the show. That's all my reviews. So, on that note, don't watch Death Dorm if you're looking for a weekend with a fun, upbeat ending. That might be better for Echo than Death Dorm or Dorm the Drip Blood. But if you want to see a slasher that is better than what people think it is, I think it's worth watching. I wasn't bored by that one. Not like Phoenix where I was falling asleep. I was intrigued by what Dorm the Drip Blood did because I felt like it was doing just enough things differently that it kept me invested. And then, man, you got that sucker punch ending. So, yeah. So Echo and Dorm that Dripped Blood would be my recommendations of the three things I've reviewed. Phoenix the Warrior is only for the very, very specific type of person. And I don't even know if that person would make it all the way through it. But the TV people thing, yeah, that's pretty funny. And on that note, have a wonderful weekend, whatever you choose to watch, and we'll talk to you again next week. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.